Good morning. It's Monday, the 26th of February 2024, and welcome to this edition of Manic Monday with, as usual, your host, Urban Buck. Good morning to all South Africans, people abroad that's following this channel. The election date for South Africa has been announced last week as the 29th of May 2024, and then naturally, with that, the ruling party at this stage, the ANC, has launched its manifesto, election manifesto, at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban this weekend. I'm going to work through that. There's something else that landed on my table. Then there's also a couple of other things that's of interest and also of concern with regards to what's happening in South Africa. We'll get to that in a minute. As most of us in South Africa know, the ANC got into power in 1994, and for the past 3 decades, they've done nothing to actually build the economy of this country. And they say in their first of, I think, 5 or 6 priorities that they are going to put South Africa to work. Now, the first one is the jobs plan. They've got an extensive jobs plan. I didn't even bother to look at it. As jobs in this country are so regulated by stuff like the BEE Act and putting certain, like they said previously, disadvantaged groups before others. And then also the education system in South Africa has deteriorated in such a way that how do you get people that's qualified to do a job and do it properly, and then in the end build the economy. Now, the unemployment rate in South Africa is at a whopping 31.2%. To get that to go down, I've got my doubts. The second priority, I say here, is to build our industries to achieve an inclusive economy, expand and modernize our industrial capacity. I'm not sure if that's attainable with if you take into consideration the infrastructure. And they say the next point is invest in infrastructure. Now, South Africa used to have a very extensive rail system, and I think only about 5% of that is still functioning. That's mainly in your harbours. And the rest of that infrastructure, the railroads, rail stations, are in absolute total mess, because it's been ransacked, it's been demolished in such a way that you won't ever be able to, not in 10 years, 20 years, put them back together again, and it's going to cost a lot of money, which the ruling party, I don't think they've got the money to put that into plan and or into action. So yeah, that's one of them that's not going to work. The other thing, transform the financial sector to support employment and industrialization. Now, that to me is a bit of a paradox, because you need people to support employment, but if you industrialize, you're actually minimizing or cutting jobs in favor of automation and those things. Now, automation is something that we have a lot of use for, and but yeah, automation cuts jobs. Pursue developmental microeconomic framework, create more opportunities for young people. Now, if you look at the young people in South Africa, a lot of them are out of jobs. There's a lot of problems with socioeconomic problems in South Africa, which prevents young people from actually entering the job market. Let's have a look. Priority number 3, tackle the high cost of living. If the economy is not being plundered so much that causes South Africa, I mean, the budget speech for the budget year 2024 by Eric Ndwana, the Minister of Finance, caused South Africa's rand to plummet against the dollar with whom we trade. And that is you're starting to say you're gonna tackle the high cost of living, but your budget is to such an extent that you actually shooting yourself in the foot. Then they're talking about the strengthening of comprehensive social security, uh, reduce the cost of living. Uh, to be honest, even stuff on discount is normally costing 5 to 10 South African rand more on discount than it used to 6 months ago. Even discount prices are going up. Cost of living, and I must add there for the people abroad that there's a lot of poverty in South Africa. You see it in the outlying, the fringes of the city, which is coming apart at the edges, where people are living in squatter camps, like 4 poles and just covered with zinc, and that's their house, and they own a house, but not so much a house. It's just a space where somebody lives, and that person actually puts on a suit in the morning and takes a taxi at the risk of his own life to the inner city to go and perform his duties at his place of employment. So to reduce the cost of living, that's a mammoth task, and if it's attainable, one would never know. Social security, the social security grant in South Africa is 350 South African rand, and they wanted to make that more, but I mean, you cannot buy much for 350 rand, and that's for somebody. And you get these old ladies, she's the grandma of the family, and she's got to feed a couple of kids on 350 rand a month, which is totally impossible. They say they want to invest in people and ensure that local government delivers. Now, if I made a video a couple of months ago with regards to the state of rivers in the Johannesburg area, and most of the rivers in the Gauteng region, which is the central region of South Africa, is contaminated with E. coli. I once had a dip in one of these rivers, and I was scolded by the local councillor for taking a chance on my life. And yeah, well, a couple of months down the line, I'm still here. The improvement of public transport and roads. We used to, like I said, we used to have an extensive suburban train service, and which is not running anymore because the railway lines are still there. About 90% of the time, the railway lines are still there, but the sleepers for those railway lines are slowly disappearing. Portions of railway line is disappearing because of the steel that's being sold as scrap metal, and also on most of these railway lines you get trees as thick as much as 10, 12, 15 inches thick. It's been growing for 5, 6, 7 years already, and it's right in the middle of the track. So all these tracks need to be cleaned. Now, if public transport excludes railway systems, then maybe we're in for a surprise here. The roads in South Africa is in an absolute state. You cannot travel anywhere without. I mean, even on the freeways that surrounding Johannesburg, or that travels around, or circumvents Johannesburg. There's even potholes on the freeways. The next one they say is improve education and skills. They want to improve education and skills, but they also recently passed the Bella Bill, which gives them full authority over your child in school, and they can decide whatever they want. It's absolutely a decay in our schools where they will allow people or young ladies, even as young as 12 years old, to have an abortion, and not necessary for the parents to actually have a say in that. That's just one point. Healthcare. Here's where the National Health Services comes into play, and we all know the background with regards to that, the organizations that's busy driving that. And one of these guys, I think it was Lessufi, he mentioned last week that they're going to buy a couple of private hospitals and put them at the disposal of the public, which they cannot even fix, that wasn't the swear word, but they can't even fix a road. Now they want to buy a hospital, a multi-million rand hospital, and use it as one of the flagships in the national health system. Science and innovation for development. Build more houses, provide basic services to all. Basic services, fresh water, sanitation, it's not doable because they are not doing it. And there is a lot of protest action in townships with regards to this, where the people are in need of fresh water. They are in need of proper sanitation. Diseases are spreading because of this, but the government is just turning a blind eye. Come election time, they hand the people a t-shirt each and they secure the vote like that. That's how it works in South Africa. I want to get to priority 5 of 6, according to the ANC's election manifesto. They say defend democracy and advance freedom. Now, democracy, I really honestly think it's a banana democracy, because that's all it is. Then the next point they've got is keeping our homes and streets safe, protect our borders. Now, we all know that there's a huge influx of Zimbabweans and Mozambicans, and they just stream over the borders because there's absolutely no border control in South Africa. Then if they say keeping our homes and streets safe, I've got a newspaper article in front of me of the Volkskrag news. You can find that online. There's a lot of people that's actually looking at Volkskrag, that's reading Volkskrag. I think something like 53 countries already, and available in 14 languages. So you can go and select your language in the top right hand of the Volkskrag screen. So the murder number in South Africa is at the highest in 20 years. And what is actually boosting that is that the judicial system of South Africa has totally disappointed South Africa. We cannot believe it. We cannot trust in the judicial system anymore. In South Africa, there are more than 2.7 million registered private security companies in South Africa. The security industry in South Africa is one of the biggest in South Africa. The police are absolutely losing the fight against crime, but they say in this manifesto, keeping our homes and streets safe. But how are they going to do that if the security industry, the private security industry, have grown in the past decade with 43%, where the amount of registered security officers have grown with 44%. So to defend the democracy, you must have a valid defense force system. You must have a valid police force, a competent police force, a competent defense force protecting our borders, a competent police force who is able to investigate crime, bring criminals to justice. But your private security industry is growing out of the roof. Now answer that question to me. So they're going to fight corruption, but we all know in South Africa corruption is at a premium. It's one of the biggest industries in South Africa is corruption. And yes, I'm calling it an industry because that's exactly what it is. Um, Building the developmental state. I'm not sure what they mean by that. Promoting nation building and social cohesion. I'm not so sure about that one either. Transformation led by honest, dedicated, and capable leaders. There's nothing honest, maybe dedicated in some ways other than what we need it to be dedicated in. But honest and capable, they are not. And then they say priority 6 is building a better Africa and world. I'm not sure what the ANC wants to go and do in the world to better the world, because they can't even better their own country. Kgalema Motlanthe is the former president of South Africa. He was not really a president. Well, he was a president. He stood in when Thabo Mbeki was relieved from office a couple of years ago, more than 20 years ago. Thabo Mbeki was the one that took over from Nelson Mandela, and I think he did okay. But there's a couple of things about Thabo Mbeki that I since read that is disturbing, and you wonder how pure he actually was. Then the other guy that I'm going to name to you is Obasanjo. He's the former president of Nigeria. And then there's a guy called Chauke. He's the political strategist for the presidency of South Africa. And then the fourth guy is the clown in the group, Fikile Mbalula. Now, apparently they, on the 8th of January, that's according to information that reached my desk, how valid this information is, and take note, I say how valid this information is, I don't know. Because it's impossible to check something if you don't know where it's coming from. There was a meeting between the four of them. The purpose of the meeting was to rig the elections in 2024 in South Africa. They say the IEC and the African Union has already been compromised, and there's a couple of role players that's bringing in their technology, and they are going to, and take note of this figure, this number that I'm going to give you. They are going to rig the election results at a 55.5% majority in favor of the ANC. Take note of that. If it doesn't happen, so be it. Good for us. If it happens, then somebody must have known, and that stuff landed on my table last week. Now, here's the other one. Now, in a country that's already on the precipice of disaster, this is one that can actually fuel a lot of fires. That's going to create one big fire in South Africa. And that is the plan to infect, possibly kill Jacob Zuma, and that would instigate a lot of chaos in South Africa. That would also cause a left-right factions clash, and with absolute dire results. Now, if you look at this, if you look at the information, there's lots of stuff like this that's flying around. But we can never just take it at face value and say, no, well, it doesn't exist. At this stage, we are on a point in South Africa, we have to take heed of warnings like this. We have to take heed of information like this, lest we be caught with our pants around our knees or ankles for that matter, and we are not going to be able to run. For those in South Africa that's listening to this, if this fight starts, stay out of it. I've said previously, and I said to quite a few people, and there's a lot of people that agreed with me, we are not in this, in a position in South Africa where we can get involved in a confrontation that we are not ready for. So best, if you're not part of this left and right faction, and I addressed it in another production last week, if you're not in this light, either the left or the right faction of the local population of South Africa, if you're neutral, stay out of it. Stay clear. They are going to come for us, if you catch my drift. They are going to come for the white people. Stay out of it. Best is to prepare to protect yourself. That is all I've got for today. I hope I stir a couple of people's emotions with this election manifesto. I hope that I've interpreted correctly. I think I did, and I think the questions that I asked or the deductions that I made were quite valid. You go out and have an enjoyable week. Take care of yourself. Be safe. And if you do get into trouble, please call on your local private security company. They know best how to help you, because the police won't.